Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. I'm Julian Weaver, the R&D Director for Longhorn Neurotech between the esteemed years of our Lord 2024 and 2025. If you're here, chances are you are ready to dive into the thrilling world of electroencephalography. Or you just have a very strange proclivity for 3D printed hats. Either way, no judgments here.
Before we begin, I'd like to give a quick disclaimer. The headset that you see in this video is circa February 2025. Some aspects of the hardware and/or software may have changed by the time you see this video. If you notice any discrepancies between the hardware or software available to you, please talk to your directors, leads, or those working on the headset for more information. Longhorn Neurotech has a 16-channel dry electrode EEG headset. Each electrode has a graphite comb tip, and the chassis itself is 3D printed. Each electrode can be adjusted towards and away from the scalp based off of a twisting mechanism. The battery and chips are housed in the chassis at the back of the headset, and there are 2 ear clips, which serve as voltage references. Each channel measures the voltage fluctuations of a population of millions of neurons underneath the scalp. This voltage information is then compared against the ear clips to reduce the noise of the system. This 16-channel signal will then be sent to your computer via a Bluetooth connection through a dongle. We'll get into setting up this connection later. But first, let's learn how to put on the headset. First, find a subject. This could either be a friend in Longhorn Neurotech or yourself.
I am the subject. I'm not the predicate.
When setting up the headset and running trials, make sure to adjust your posture. Keep your back straight, your feet flat on the ground, and your hands placed on your thighs. Keep your head straight especially. Setting up the headset with proper posture means that there's a lesser risk of the headset shifting during trials. And since this is motor imagery, any movement that you make during the trials will degrade the signal. Make sure you find a comfortable position to sit still in. When placing the headset on the subject's head, make sure that it is parallel to the ground. Before putting the headset on, I recommend resetting the positions of the electrodes. Immediately after putting the headsets on, notice the spacers. These are similar to the electrodes but have no graphite tips or wires. Adjust these spacers to the contours of your subject's head. Make sure the ear clips are on. After you've done all of this, turn the headset on. If the headset isn't turning on, it's likely out of battery. We'll discuss the battery and other connections later. To adjust an electrode, first unplug its wire. If you twist the electrode without unplugging the wire, you risk shearing the wire off and damaging the equipment. Once the wire is unplugged, gently screw the electrode into its socket. Because each electrode has a comb tip, it may get tangled into your hair. For this reason, make sure to clear the space away with some utensil. Here we use a coffee stirrer. If you're adjusting the headset on yourself, keep going until you can distinctly feel the electrode on your scalp. If you're adjusting somebody else's headset, please instruct them to give you sensory feedback. Once you're done adjusting the electrode, plug the wire back in. During this whole process, remember to be extremely careful with the headset itself. Our headset is on the cheaper end, but it still costs several $1,000s. Be very deliberate and careful. We only have so much money. To connect the headset to your computer, you need to use the provided dongle. The dongle uses a USB-A connection, so in my case, I need to use a USB-A to USB-C converter. If it lights up blue, it's on. A similar device can be used to charge the batteries. The batteries are located underneath the black casing in the back of the headset. Gently pop off the black casing and remove the battery. Then, plug the battery into the chip. We have multiple batteries, so I highly encourage you to charge one while you're running the tests. Once the dongle has been plugged in, it's time to run the OpenBCI GUI. Upon opening the OpenBCI GUI, it'll prompt you for a data source. We use the Cyton board. Our transfer protocol is the serial dongle, which we plugged in earlier. We select the number of channels there are in our headset, in this case 16, and click Auto Connect. Once it connects, you should see an interface similar to this. We'll want to change it slightly. The left side of the interface shows voltage traces for each electrode. On the right, we're going to replace one of these panels with Sight-on Signal, which can be found under this drop-down menu. This Sight-on Signal window will be used to check the impedances of each electrode. This window will allow you to see whether the adjustments you make to the electrodes, through twisting them, have an actual impact on the noisiness of the signal. My personal preference is to use the bottom window as a fast Fourier transform to see which frequency elements are the most powerful, and to identify electrical noise in the environment. US power line noise is at 60 Hz. To test if the connection is working, you can press the Start Data Stream button in the top left of the GUI. You should see something like this. To begin testing impedances, you can click the Check All Channels button to begin iterating through each channel and testing its impedance. You can additionally test an individual channel by clicking on it. In the OpenBCI GUI, impedance is measured in kiloohms, as impedance is essentially just another word for resistance. It takes a second to determine the impedance of a channel. We want impedances to be as low as possible, usually in the low hundreds. The OpenBCI GUI makes it easy for us to see by color-coding good, moderate, and bad impedances. Your job is to get these impedances as low as possible. A couple notes, however. If the impedance shows up as 0 kiloohms, this is likely a bug. Try the channel again. Additionally, since Longhorn Neurotech mostly does motor imagery, low impedance is most important for electrodes near the motor cortex. Therefore, the electrodes in the back and the front of the head are not nearly as important as the ones on the sides. This can be a relatively time-consuming process. Try to get as many channels to low impedance as possible. While some high impedances may be okay, there's nothing more satisfying than a full column of green. The structure of trials and trial GUIs can vary significantly between experiments. For a more detailed look at a specific trial, consult experimentation documentation or those that created the GUI. However, there are a couple axioms that stay true across all experiments. First, and perhaps most importantly, when collecting EEG data, movement makes our data worse. Any movement, including blinking. This isn't to say that you should avoid blinking, but know that excessive movement makes it much more difficult for us to discern motor imagery. For this reason, stick to the posture we outlined near the beginning of this video, and avoid moving your eyes too much. It's far better to keep your eyes fixed to a central point on the screen than move them all across. We want to classify based off of motor intent, not which direction your eyes are looking. Secondly, right before running a series of trials, familiarize yourself with the standardized movement. For instance, one 2-degree of freedom classification that we do is between thinking about squeezing your right hand and thinking about squeezing your left hand. For this purpose, we give test subjects an identical stress ball to squeeze before trials. When the trials are going on, and the subject is prompted to think about squeezing either their right or left hand, we instruct the subject to think about squeezing that stress ball. This removes some of the variability between subjects. Additionally, all motor movements should be continuous. You shouldn't think of repeatedly squeezing the ball. This is a periodic movement, and since much of the feature extraction we do involves frequency manipulation, it may mean that some relevant signals can be lost simply by operating on that frequency of motor movement. Instead of squeezing the ball over and over and over again, think about squeezing it for one long continuous stretch. Finally, make sure to take breaks when doing data collection. The more data we have, the better, but if you're tired and irritated, the data simply won't be as good. The same goes for the headset. If the headset begins to get painful, take it off and end the trials. We'd far rather you be safe than have an extra 20 data points. Once again, if you have any questions related to the nature of the experiment you wish to perform, please contact the R&D Director, the Experimentation Lead, or an equivalent role. This has been Julian Weaver, and have fun controlling robots with your mind.